Hey y'all! Pokemon Red using only Jolteon had me feeling the pressure, so this week let's try to keep it cool. I'm gonna beat Pokemon Red using only one Articuno. As usual, the rules are we can only use one Articuno in battle, and I can't use any items in battle. By the way, if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and check out more of these videos on my channel. Articuno is a burb. A big beautiful burb. I remember as a wee lad solving that, at the time impossible Seafoam Island surf puzzle, only to discover the treasure at the end of the cave was a big beautiful ice burb. Can I say burb enough? I seem to remember getting frozen a lot while trying to reset and catch his Pokemon, but then again, I might be concocting memories that never happened. Not only was that a long time ago, but I was also an idiot. As for the stats and moves, well, they're pretty great. I mean, our typing is pretty weak defensively, with a ton of weaknesses and only a few resistances, but offensively, we hit so many things for super effective damage. The stats are especially great for Articuno in this game, since Special is a combined offensive and defensive stat. In future games, it has 95 special attack and 125 special defense, but in Pokemon Red, it has 125 special, just period. Yeah, it's for both. And the move pool is limited, but with Ice Beam from the jump and a super high special stat, I think we're gonna be just fine. Alright, let's do this. Off at Professor Oak's lab, I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Charmander with Articuno so that our rival will pick Squirtle. Venusaur and Charizard are both weak to ice in this game, so this makes this the hardest starter for Articuno to handle. And yeah, you heard that right. Charizard is weak to ice in this game because fire does not resist ice yet. That comes later. Articuno is the perfect pick for a single Pokemon challenge run, which is why I nickname ours Flying Snowlo. Articuno starts off with two moves, Peck and Ice Beam. Basically, a terrible flying move, juxtaposed with an incredible ice-type move. After the rival Bubs challenges us to a battle, we release the doves, so to speak, as we get to see Articuno finally in action. And even though it's a resisted move, I go for Ice Beam since it should do much more damage than Peck, what with the difference between our attack and special, plus the difference in base power of Peck and Ice Beam. Oh, hey look! 2 crits and the battle is over. Or as I like to call it, see you later, Borealigator. Having beaten Bubs, I head through Viridian Forest and make my way to the Pewter City Gym. And I made sure not to battle any optional trainers so that when we make it to the gym, we're only level 6. And that means we are half the level of Brock's Geodude, so it's actually able to survive an Ice Beam despite Geodude's terrible special stat. Once it goes down, we hit level 7, and apparently that was enough of a boost to make Ice Beam a one-hit KO against the Onix. That or the Onix is just terrible, not quite sure. And with that, Brock is forced to give us his badge as we turn and silently walk away. Or as I like to call it, giving the boulder holder the cold shoulder. After traversing Mount Moon, it's now time to take on the rival Bubs just north of Cerulean City, but just south of Nugget Bridge. Articuno is definitely going to win this battle. I'm not worried about that at all. What does surprise me though, is that the Pidgeotto is still faster than us. I mean, I know we're a lower level, but also we've been gaining stat experience which boost our stats, where the in-game trainers do not get that benefit. Do we just have terrible DVs on this frigid flapper? Well, I don't know. And you might think that this could hold us back and make the challenge a little bit harder, but don't see us short. After blasting Bubs' Toidle with Cold Rays, I've got to take on the Cerulean gym leader Misty. I'm thinking it should be fairly easy to pound Misty's Starfish, so let's just jump right in there. Her Staryu takes Star 2 hits to go down, but her Starmie has a pretty high special, so I decide to fight it with Bide. We get good luck with a 3-turn Bide, and Starmie attacks during each of those turns, which is actually great. And we're all set to knock it out, except for the part where the last hit is a critical one, so we lose. Yay! I'm not mad though, because hey, that's the game, and I would do the same to her, given the chance. It's prison rules after all, and if push comes to shove, I'll shiver. On the next attempt, we managed to make it through the Staryu once again with very little trouble. Then the Starmie comes out, and before we can even use our Bide, it lands a critical hit water gun. Oh boy, It's gonna be super close as to whether our Bide will knock it out, and we're almost out of health. We just missed the knockout with Bide, but then we're able to finish her off with Ice Beam because out of nowhere, she gets super X defensive. Talk about bipolar. With Misty out of the way, we now have to head to Vermillion City to hop aboard the SS Anne and once again take on the rival Bubs. And this is basically the same battle as the last time we saw him, except his Pokemon are slightly stronger. I did teach Articuno the TM for Bubble Beam that we got from Misty just for additional coverage, since, well, we don't really have many other type options available anyways. Articuno does take a surprising amount of damage from the Pidgeotto and the Raticate, but short of a Hyper Fang critical hit, I don't think anything was going to keep the freeze train from rolling all night long. Or as I like to call it, the a-choo-choo. Now that we can use Cut outside of battle, it's time to take on Lieutenant Surge at the Vermillion City Gym. For the first time in a long time, Surge is actually bringing the heat. His first two Pokemon, well, they're not much to write home about. After all, it's just a Voltorb and a Pikachu. That Raichu though? Girl, that Raichu though. It thunderbolted us into oblivion. We would have won too if we could have only frozen this beautiful Chubbalicious mouse, since in this game, there's no way to actually thaw. The rat would have remained permanently frozen, or as I like to call it, Vermifrost. Alright, after retreating, regrouping, and then heading back to the front lines, we're going to try to beat Lieutenant Surge one more time. Keep in mind this badge is only required in order to use Fly, so if the battle's too difficult, we can always just skip it and come back later. And once again, the Poser Ball and the Sellout Mouse go down in a single hit, and then it's the Raichu, once again. And this time though, Surge has the need for speed, and he ran out of bolts, and instead rocks the Thunder Shocks. Articuno knocks this thing out, but I'm sad to see you go, Raichu. You're my favorite Pokemon after all. Hey, maybe we can be friends. Maybe we can keep in touch. Ooh, we could write each other letters every once in a while. Or as I like to call it, Penguin Pals. I'll be glacier to write. After crawling through the darkened rock tunnel, I arrive in Lavender Town to take on the rival Bubs in the Pokemon Tower. And I'm sad to say that we're not even able to teach Thunderbolt to Articuno, which means we basically have no coverage to hit water types. Even so, it's still super simple to bash through Bubs' team. And we're getting to that point in the game where Articuno is accumulating plenty of stat experience in order to beef us up. Also, we're catching up in levels, so for now, there's kinda nothing to worry about with these battles. Still, I can't help but worry about a few key battles that happen later, like Blaine and Laurelai, because I know that they'll be troublesome. That's not productive though, is it? Kind of like worrying about your igloo getting too warm. It's a bit silly, isn't it? We've beaten Bubs, and now it's time to take on the Grass-type gym leader in Cerulean City. And this battle is even more trivial than the last one. This is our bread and butter. We've had Ice Beam since the beginning of the game, and here we're using it to eviscerate Erica's Garden of Weeds. 3 Ice Beams and her plants are in the rear view mirror. All it took was blasting some cold air at them. So, am I to understand that Erica would freak out if I set the AC to, let's say 68 degrees? Or maybe that's too cold. Maybe that's not cold enough. I don't know. I'd crunch the numbers, but then again, I'm no thermostatistician. After beating Erica, I head to the game corner to take on Giovanni in the Team Rocket hideout. I don't even bother healing at a Pokemon Center before heading in to take him on either. 3 Ice Beams is all we need. Heck, I don't even need that many. 2 Bubble Beams blast both his Boulderific Bozos, and 1 Ice Beam mangles his matriarchal marsupial. That's a lot of big words to describe such a small man. And if you really think about it, this whole organized crime syndicate thing is probably just a self-aggrandizing charade so that Giovanni can distract himself from his own crippling Napoleonic complex. But you can't outrun your flaws, bub. They go wherever you go, and no amount of dough is gonna change that. It's like the saying goes, Eskimo money, Eskimo problems. Now it's time to take on Koga at the Fuchsia City Gym. Koga is a major problem, because his Pokemon are pretty bulky, and his Weezing likes to go kablooey. Koga's Poison-type attackers use poison moves which are physical, and he likes to boost their firepower with X attacks. Weirdly enough though, sometimes he does this so much that we're just getting free hits and knocking out his Pokemon without them actually doing much of anything at all. Alright. Even the Weezing does this, when a self-destruct would have been devastating, but then again, I don't mind an X-Attack. After all, I'm not a huge fan of Koga exploding in my face. Or as I like to call it, sleet, 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 sleet. After beating Koga, I head to Saffron City for yet another rival battle with Bubs in the Silph Company building. At this point in the challenge, Bubs' Pokemon are all fully evolved, except for the Execute, and the front half of his team, well, they all go down in a single hit. The Alakazam comes out though, and hits the 25% chance to disable our Ice Beam right as we were going to use it. So we've got to scramble and fight with other moves. Then it's a back and forth with the Alakazam spamming Recover before we're finally able to take it down, and Blastoise is the Blastoise. We're trading damage back and forth until we take it down with a critical hit Ice Beam when our health was super low. Kinda feels like cheating to win this way, but you know what they say, all is Fahrenheit in love and war. After beating Bubs, I've got to battle Giovanni, and Articuno is now in cruise control. Obviously we blast through all of his Pokemon without any issues, so there's no surprise there. I will say though, I'd really love some kind of change up in our moveset. We have pretty limited options, and I know that things are going to get muy difícil once we get to Laurelai at the Elite Four. But if she's a brick wall, then I guess that makes Giovanni one of those frail ribbons they hold at the end of a race for the winner to run through. Not that Giovanni would ever know what it's like to win something. After all, he's a gloozer? I should probably go beat Blaine next and try to get the Volcano badge to boost our special, but since I'm already in town, and weak to fire, I head next door to take a crack at Sabrina for the Psychic Gym. I head into the battle and just start blasting left and right, faster than an overly competitive dad playing laser tag with his kids. And we manage to make it to the Venomoth with all of our health left. But we get poisoned and have very few PP left for the Alakazam. We keep using Ice Beam while Alakazam keeps recovering, and we get pretty low on health before it uses Reflect, and then we're able to finish it off with a Bubble Beam. And I was worried that there was going to be snow way past that recover loop, but it turns out we just had to plow through it. Now there's nothing left to do but surf down to Cinnabar Island and take on the Fire-type gym leader Blaine. This one was tough. For starters, Articuno is only level 40, and even with all of our accumulated stat experience, Blaine has several Pokemon which outspeed the Frosty Pheasant. The worst case scenario, which happens multiple times, is that we get stun locked by Fire Spin. We can't outspeed to avoid it, and also it's super effective, so it quickly whittles down our health bar until Articuno just goes poof. Blaine sure was quick to bring the heat in this battle, and poor Articuno just crapped the bed. Or as I like to call it, a thermometer. After a handful of attempts, I managed to make it to the Rapidash without taking any damage. At this point, Blaine decides to throw me a bone and uses a super potion while his horse is hella healthy, and then misses a fire spin as we beat it back with Bubbles. Arcanine, though, is truly terrifying. After using another full health super potion, Blaine gives Arcanine the command for Fire Blast, and the good doggo obeys, wasting away most of our health. Another Fire Blast will knock us out, unless, of course, a critical hit Bubble Beam snatches victory from the puppy jaws of defeat. Looks like this time, Articuno was able to defeat the sled dog in the race to victory, leaving Blaine a husky of his former self. Now it's time for the final showdown with Giovanni for our final gym badge. Articuno easily sweeps his whole team, so nothing really exciting to say about the battle in that regard. In the meantime though, I know that Bubs can be a problem in the battle after this, and so the way this battle went actually puts a few things in our favor. Right at the end of the battle, Articuno reaches level 43, which is great for a few reasons. First, anytime your level ends in 0, 3, 5, or 8, you do extra damage thanks to the way that this game's damage calculation is rounded. Secondly, sometimes we need to use Mimic to copy Bubs' Pidgeot's agility and gain additional badge boosts in these challenges, but those reset if you level up during the battle. And because we just level up, if we did do this, we'd keep any extra badge boosts for as long as possible during the Bubs battle. And hopefully I don't need to resort to that though, since I know it annoys certain people that watch these videos. And I get it! I've done a ton of these challenges, and if you've seen someone use badge boosts again and again and again, it can get real cold real fast. And so before we take on the Elite Four, we have to battle the rival Bubs. And I'm readying myself for a long and grueling series of attempts, mostly because of the Alakazam and the Blastoise. The first handful of Pokemon aren't any issue at all. They all go down in a single Ice Beam. The Alakazam, though, has a high base speed and therefore is more likely to land a critical hit in this game, but instead it just keeps recovering until it gets frozen by Ice Beam. Alright, that's pretty cool. Let's hope we keep up the momentum with Blastoise, which just gets frozen by another Ice Beam. Alright, I'll take it. Okay, I was worried, but in the end it turns out there was absolutely nothing to cry about. Alright, it's time to take on the Elite Four, but first, here are the stats and moves. Articuno is level 44, and I'm completely surprised by the fact that its speed is somehow lower than its attack stat. Wow, I guess I was right earlier. I must have the worst distribution of DVs on this thing after all. Well, as for the moves, I've been making some moves behind the scenes, and since I already know that beating Laurelai is going to be difficult, I've decided to combine the moves Toxic and Fly to beat her bulky behemoths. Toxic poisons the opponent and doubles the poison damage dealt each turn. And Fly is normally a terrible move because it takes 2 turns to do as much damage as 2 pecks, but when combined with Toxic, it actually helps to rack up some pretty big poison damage. This strategy is very slow going, but it's a super safe bet, and that's really all I care about: consistency. There's always the option to rely on Ice Beam or Blizzard and try to freeze our way out of a tough spot, but I don't like leaving things up to chance, especially when it comes to cold winds. After all, I'm brisk adverse. First up is Laurelai with a team of Ice-type Pokemon, and I'm ready to use my Toxic and Fly combo, but there's a snag in our plan already. Dewgong knows the move Rest, which puts it to sleep for 2 turns, but heals all its health and status, including poison. Furthermore, it's pretty bulky, so even trying to just knock it out with Fly is very difficult, especially when it can lower our attack stat with Growl. I ran out of PP during this battle multiple times and had to restart, until eventually I got an attempt where we successfully dodged the Growls with Fly and even get a timely critical hit to take down the Gong. Cloyster comes out and locks us up with Clamp, which is just like a water-type Fire Spin. But not to worry though, because we poisoned Cloyster with Toxic, which damages the Clamages even on the terms where we are clamped down. Slowbro goes down in a couple of turns thanks to the accumulating power of Toxic, but things go badly once we get to the Jinx. Articuno gets paralyzed by Body Slam, and after that, things just kinda go horribly wrong. Alright, well, we're gonna have to try this one again, and get through the Dewgong. Again? We really are getting lost in the frost. Alright, on the next attempt, the Jinx goes down with us only taking nominal damage, and finally, we have a chance to take a crack at the Lapras. This is so annoying. Lapras keeps confusing us with Confuse Ray, and we keep slippy-slapping ourselves in confusion. The only saving grace is that we land a Toxic pretty early, so while our other attacks aren't going through, at least Lapras is taking damage. We even get paralyzed by a Body Slam, and the Lapras just barely finishes itself off with poison as we almost slap our last remaining health away from confusion. And good thing we didn't slap ourselves, because that would not have been good. After all, we can't beat Laurelai if we're knocked out cold. I'm having a tundra fun. Alright, with Laurelai defeated and the Lapras yeeted, it's time to take on Bruno. Now, the hardest part about the battle is trying to decide whether or not to use Fly versus Ice Beam. Cause, well, our special is our highest stat, but Ice is neutral against his fighting types. And Flying is super effective against his fighting types, but our attack stat is much lower. I don't know. I just kind of flip-flop between the two and, hope for the best. And it turns out, doesn't really matter anyways, since Bruno loses on the very first try, and we run along faster than someone skipping out on a dinner bill. Or as I like to call it, the old Alpine Dash. Now it's time for the Elite Four member Agatha, the geriatric ghost trainer. And this one was pretty wild. All 3 of her ghosts have really aggravating moves like Hypnosis, Dream Meter, and Confuse Ray. Plus, they've also got Nightshade, which just does a bunch of damage. She also keeps healing her Pokemon right as I'm about to knock them out, or when they don't heal, we hit ourselves in confusion. Oh, okay. On this one attempt, I barely make it past the lead Gengar, and now I've got next to no health left for the rest of the battle. But somehow, Articuno just won't quit. Her Pokemon keep going down, and when we get to the last Pokemon, the strongest Gengar, we miss getting the win by a single turn. A single turn. Can't you just let me win, Agatha? Oh, seriously. She's got absolute zero chill. Several attempts later, and the first Gengar goes down without messing us up too badly, and then Articuno starts breezing through her Pokemon. Things take a turn though, when the Arbok lands a glare and paralyzes us, but hey, at least that means we can't be poisoned by Toxic or put to sleep. I guess it's fine. I'm just trying to stay positive here, y'all. Unfortunately, Ice Beam is not a 2-hit KO against the last Gengar, and it looks like we're going to fall short once again until we get the most timely Ice Beam freeze you or your dusty grandma have ever seen. All I can say is that Agatha got exactly what she had coming. Looks like karma frost bit her in the butt. Next up is the final Elite Four member, Lance the Dragon Master, and he might honestly be the easiest of all the Elite Four members for Articuno to defeat. Well, next to Bruno, of course. We do need to get some good fortune against Elite Gyarados, but that's easy enough. As long as we don't take too much damage from Dragon Rage or Hyper Beam, we can take it down with Toxic and Fly. And after that, we've got plenty of health to get to the Aerodactyl and survive a takedown. But had it been a Hyper Beam, I'm not so sure we would have survived. But hey, Dragonite can't do diddly when it's double weak to ice, and we're so frosty. Lance's team got ice creamed, which explains why his performance was subpar fey. Finally, it's time to take on the champion, our rival Bubs. How are we going to fare against the champion? Well, there's only one way to find out. We fly into the battle, and Ice Beam starts doing its thing. Pidgeot goes down, and the Alakazam must have just gone to therapy because it does an awful lot of reflecting and not much battling. Rhydon is a bag of boulders and doesn't get to do nothing about nothing, but the Arcanine lands a critical hit with Ember. Okay, well that did a bunch of damage, but I think we'll be fine. Alright. Oh, well then the Exeggutor lands a critical hit Stomp, and now we've got little to no health. Okay, time for Toxic to do its thing against the Blastoise, but it's a little too late. We can't tank the Tortoise's attacks before a Hydro Pump causes us to fall short. Well, that battle was a real flopsicle. On the next attempt, Exeggutor gets frozen by Ice Beam, and then when we level up, this time I decide we're actually going to learn Agility. That's right, for this last battle only, I'll be utilizing Badge Boosts. And let's hope this helps. Well, it would help if we didn't get critically hit by a Hydro Pump from the Blastoise. Cool. We land a Toxic and start flying. The Blastoise uses a bunch of withdrawals, and we dodge a Hydro Pump while we're flying in the air. And hey, speaking of that, Blastoise actually faints while we're flying in the air and not even on screen. And after beating Bubs, he gets super incredulous because he can't believe that he just lost to our Frosty Flyer. But come on, dude. There's no need to be a sore loser. And with that, the challenge is over. Articuno really was one of the best Pokemon I've ever used in one of these challenge runs. It didn't blast through every single trainer, like those with bulky water types, but sometimes it is nice to just slow down and smell the roses. Overall though, this Pokemon has got everything you could ask for. Strong moves, decent typing, and great stats. It really ticks all the boxes. As always, I want to thank you all for making it to the end of this video. These videos are a lot of fun, but also a lot of work, so I really do appreciate it. There's a playlist on my channel where you can check out the rest of these Pokemon Challenge videos as well. And if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you'll know right away the next time one of these episodes is uploaded. And if you want access to a bunch of my past challenge videos ad-free, consider becoming a member or by joining on Patreon. And also, let me know in the comments what other Pokemon you might want to see, and I might do it. Next time, I'll be trying to beat Pokemon Red using only one Moltres. Alright, until next time,